I'm so excited to speak to our guest today for the second time on the show. Please help me to introduce aesthetic physician assistant, Chad.
Thanks for having me, John. Again.
Hi, my name is Jonathan McLean, and I'm the founder and CEO of McLean Aesthetics.
Welcome to the dark side.
Let's go. Hey Chad, thanks for being back on the show again.
It's great to be here. It's good to see you again. You're looking good, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So I wanted to talk to you. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I wanted to talk to you about health and wellness. I know it's a big component of this industry. That's what people come to see you for sometimes. Tell us, how big is that for an aesthetic injector or for provider?
Well, obviously health and wellness is kind of a broad subject.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could sort of separate it into the idea of just the way that a injector or healthcare provider takes care of themselves and the way that they educate their clients and patients about doing the same. You know, everything from like the stress management, since we're all, you know, stressed out, high anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of Xanax prescriptions out there. So just the mental health component alone is huge. But if you want to get into more of the formalized like anti-aging medicine and like, you know, the offerings, that does happen to be like one of the things that I offer in my practice.
Yeah.
It's not the main thing, but it's definitely a thing. But not every injector out there, not every med spa clinic, derm clinic does those types of treatments. Because it is kind of a labor of love, right? Like you're assuming responsibility for that person's care. But me personally, like I'm willing to do that just because I'm kind of a bleeding heart for my patients. I'm very hands-on, very personalized. Most of my patients get my cell phone number, except for the crazy ones maybe. We've all got them. But as far as things that I'm doing in my practice, you know, I do offer kind of like a comprehensive blood panel. I do a modest amount of hormone replacement therapy, whether it's managing guys on their testosterone or maybe postmenopausal women who want to do like pellet hormones or a transdermal cream, something like that. And then I also do like medically assisted weight loss with things like the phentermine peptides, the new one, which is semaglutide for weight loss is really big right now. So those are all things that I do in my practice, and I think it's important to kind of use that as a complement to the other side because, you know, especially when it comes to something like the hormone therapies, that can really affect the outer appearance of a woman's skin in particular, especially like once she kind of hits her 50s and hits menopause and beyond that. Once she starts losing her estrogen levels, like the skin tends to dry out, looks more crepey, looks dehydrated. And if you give that woman back her estrogen, you see the skin bounce back a little bit better. Now everything that I'm doing aesthetically on the outside is going to just be that much more effective.
Nice. That's really interesting to know. What age does that usually happen for men and women?
So statistically, the average age in America is 52 and a half for women. Obviously, for men, it's not so much like of a sudden thing, but some people have used the term menopause to describe the sharp drop-off in a man's testosterone level, which does typically happen kind of like around the same time, like late 40s, early 50s, mid 50s, something like that. And those are my favorite clients to treat because they're the ones who need the most help. They can usually afford to pay for the treatments because they're right at the peak of their career, and they've got maybe teenagers at home, maybe the marriage, the sex life like isn't what it was 20 years ago, and you get that couple hormone optimized and you get them on a regimen, you correct some vitamin deficiencies, and all of a sudden you see their marriage bounce back, and then they're coming to you saying, man, you are our hero because we found our mojo again. And that's a lot of fun for me as a provider to watch that happen.
Yeah, no, and that's why I really love this industry. It's like anything that can go wrong can be fixed, right? There's no like permanent thing that, oh, this is ruining my life. This is not, you know, this is something that's really taking a toll on my life. I can't get help with it. You can come see you and get help with it and change.
Yeah, I mean within reasonable
Yeah.
limits. I mean, I'm not going to take on anybody and everybody. I think there's a certain amount of clinical discretion involved with your patient selection, and there's definitely a time and a place to refer that person to a specialist of some kind if it's something that I feel like is outside of my wheelhouse, or maybe they're like a high risk candidate for hormones. You know, maybe they're like a BRCA1, BRCA2, genetic propensity for breast cancer, ovarian cancer, or something like that. I'm going to be really cautious and careful about putting that woman on hormones. But for the most part, there's always something that I can do, even just providing the information and the proper direction for that patient as to like how to best take care of their condition and just navigate the medical system at large can be helpful as well.
Super cool. Super, super cool. Do you work out yourself?
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. So I'll be 41 in September.
What? That's crazy. You don't look anything like 41.
Well, this is preservatives added from this point out. So this is a fair bit of, Botox and fillers. I am on testosterone therapy as of like 6 months ago because I recently got my wife pregnant. So we're expecting in December.
Nice,
so that's
nice.
exciting. About to have my second little girl.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So now that my duties of being a sperm donor have been fulfilled, I'm back on the sauce and feeling really, really good. It's like Superman juice.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it's like now I can actually, we'll take our little dogs on a walk. I can carry my 9-year-old on my back, doing the piggyback ride pretty much all the way around the block. Whereas like 6-8 months ago, I would have been really struggling.
Super cool. Wow.
Yeah. So testosterone therapy is not just about like looking swole, looking big, and getting those gains. It can literally be about your quality of life, especially like once guys hit their 40s and 50s. It can really be about how are you able to physically care for your family? How are you able to interact with your kids? It has positive effects on your mood. Can also have negative effects on your mood if you go too high, and then you get that kind of like roid rage feeling. But I can personally attest that it's really been a game changer for me, especially even just over the last 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's amazing. That's really cool. Now, employee burnout or just a burnout in general, how do you deal with that? I know you're always working, social media, everything. How do you deal with that?
So, now that I'm the business owner, you do have to manage your time differently.
Yeah.
Because there's now 87 things that didn't used to be my job, but now they are because I'm the business owner and there's no one else to do them. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to like carve out blocks of time for yourself. And I've been having strategic meetings with other business owners and just kind of like asking them, how they navigate a certain process, how they manage their time, and certain systems that they put in place to help them do that. And that's been incredibly valuable for me too. This is still a very, very new venture for me, so I'm still kind of like learning a lot of that stuff as I go. So, you flat out do have to carve out time where you're just not accepting appointments so that you can focus on the business aspects, the social media aspects, shooting the content, returning all those emails that you've been like sandbagging for the whole week. So there's a lot of that, but at the same time, the freedom of owning my own business has been immensely satisfying.
Nice, yeah, it is. It definitely, you get to have your own schedule. You get to really make your own rules and how you want to run your own practice. So I can see definitely that. Awesome. Is there any podcasts or anything that you listen to kind of help you with that or helped you start the process?
There's one guy in particular. His name's James Nielsen Watt. And he was a chiropractor by trade and then got into the whole entrepreneurial side of things, business management, marketing management, and those kinds of things. And basically, he'll bring on other notable figures in business and kind of just get their story and how they got to where they've got to.
Yeah.
So anytime I can, like if I've got a drive or something like that, I'll try to pop on a podcast like that. I think that's pretty much the main one that I would listen to.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm gonna check that out. Podcasts are, what it is right now. I feel like I learned a lot of my information. Going to college was amazing, but that continuous education of keep going every day, I feel like podcast is a good substitute for that, for sure.
And YouTube is always a great educator as well. Even when it comes to simple things like why is my Mac not accepting my video SD card so I can transfer these video files that I just shot? And there's a YouTube video out there for everything.
So you're really big in photography too, I understand, right?
Well, informally. I mean, obviously, before and after pictures are everything in the aesthetic field, and so it's just as important to be a good photographer as it is to be a good injector. And fortunately, those things have always kind of come naturally to me. I've always had an appreciation for really well done photography, even more so than more of kind of like abstract art stuff that you see down at like the Basel Festival or something like that. But like I appreciate really, really well done photos. So I try to shoot as good of quality photos as I can, whether it's like the lighting, the angles. It's super important.
And I find that super interesting because when I look at like the history of an aesthetic injector or a provider that provides aesthetics, I always like you have to have something else that really thrives you, right? That really is also the arts or something like that. And photography is definitely an art.
It definitely helps. Yeah. I mean, you can have an interest in being an injector.
Yeah.
And you can do it because you have a medical license to do it.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily make you an artist, right? Mm-hmm. As much as I would love to be a painter, going to some painting classes probably isn't going to turn me into Picasso. So, but fortunately for me, all that stuff kind of comes a little bit more naturally to me. I came from a musical family. I'm left-handed, right brain, creative type thinker. So it's been a thing that has helped a lot because I feel like I have that kind of like natural eye for when the photo is right and when it's not right.
Yeah, for sure. Can you play any music, like instruments?
Yeah, actually I play guitar and piano.
Super dope.
And then way back in the day I used to be a trumpet player in bands, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, super dope. They say when you can do things like that, it really helps to build your career, your more so your career.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it just what it does is it kind of develops like different parts of your brain that I think help with the overall critical thinking processes later. It's like, owning a business is 50% just solving problems.
Yeah.
And so just having as many parts of your brain cross-talking with each other as possible, I think is helpful.
Nice. Now we're in your Now we're in your spa right now, and it looks amazing. I can't believe it. I'm so impressed with like the details and things of that nature. How did you know you were ready to kind of jump out on your own, and how did you come up with the concept of everything in here?
That's a good question. I saw this shape, which eventually somebody that I know identified it as a Metatron cube. So even though it looks like a diamond when you're looking at it straight on, if you imagine it's a cube that's kind of turned like that, then you can start to see the cube. And it comes from sacred geometry, which has all these really cool shapes that can sort of occur in nature naturally. And for me, I just like the aesthetic of it. I like the fact that it's just like, it's balanced, it's symmetrical, it shows kind of like the interconnectedness of the shapes. And I think I like the idea of that, especially when it comes to the aesthetic world and how, one thing does affect the other, and it's important to have balance and symmetry in what you're doing. Beyond that, I just like the idea of something a little bit more luxurious and upscale. Black and gold are always good choices to do that. So, I'm going for kind of like a black tie formal, Great Gatsby, Justin Timberlake, Jay-Z, suit and tie kind of vibe. Yeah. So it's been fun to kind of, have complete creative control of that process because, like I said, it does kind of scratch that creative musical side of me to do it.
Nice. And how did you know you were ready to actually go on your own and do it?
Well, they gave me a cell booster, but I can't.
I think it's like having kids.
Yeah.
Like you're never really, really ready to do it. You kind of just do it and you hope for the best.
Yeah.
So, but I had opportunities to do other partnerships, but I became so fixated on this idea and this concept that I felt like I wouldn't be true to myself if I didn't at least pursue that, for better or for worse. And if I fell flat on my face, there's always some place I can go partner with or work for. But I just felt like if I didn't do it, I was going to regret it later.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. I really believe aesthetic injectors are like a brand, right? They're a brand of their own, right? So,
Sure.
when you decide to go away from working for someone and work for yourself, you're building essentially your brand and
Right.
who you are as a person in this industry. So I definitely think that if you're good at what you do and you have the demand, then, you can be successful in anything.
Yeah, and I feel like I've made a couple ballsy, smart moves, especially when it comes to the evil genius of calling my Instagram page Needle Daddy, right? So even though I'm not the greatest injector out there, and I don't know everybody in the industry, it's like very common. It's becoming a common occurrence where I'll meet other people, and even if they haven't met me personally, they don't know Chad Van Horn, but they're like, "Oh, Needle Daddy, I've heard of you." It's just like get a load of this guy. Like he would have the audacity to call himself Needle Daddy. I do.
The power of branding right there. Power of branding. Amazing.
That's right.
Amazing. What services do you offer here?
So I do obviously Botox and fillers. I do. I'm kind of focusing on more of like a procedural pricing structure. So it's more of kind of like per area. So you're not just buying like a product, you're buying a result. Whether it's like a lip injections or a jawline filler or a non-surgical nose or cheekbones. And then I have kind of like my signature lift, which is basically just the injector's choice. It's basically I cap it at this number, and then it's anything and everything that I think a person needs to achieve a desirable outcome. Beyond the aesthetic stuff, then obviously I also do the hormone replacement therapy, the medically assisted weight loss. I do partner with an esthetician, Paula Gonzalez, who's amazing, and she's right across the room in my other suite, doing facials and microneedling and chemical peel and getting people set up on proper skincare regimens. So it's kind of the two of us. Oh, and she also does lashes and brows and soon to be lip blushing as well, or semi-permanent makeup. So be on the lookout for a combination package where you get semi-permanent lip blushing and lip injections, because it looks incredible when it's done right. So it's a little bit of look good, feel good medicine. What I mean?
That's great.
And then recently, I'd say within the last 8 months, I've also started doing PDO thread lifting as well, which I'm still kind of like on the fence about that, deciding if I think it's a good thing to do. I really think there's value especially when it comes to something like lifting the jawline and the neck. You're not going to see me do the whole Bella Hadid fox eye. I think it's trendy. I think it's expensive. I don't think it lasts, and it's obviously like more painful to go through than just using Neurotox to lift the eyebrows. So you take it with a grain of salt, and I think it's a tool that has a right application and a couple applications that I probably wouldn't recommend towards people.
Yeah, for sure. It's so crazy because I see PDO thread in like Asia and some of these different countries, and it's been around for like 20 years or so, right? And then you can come to America and people are just now trying it, or a couple years ago they're just now trying it. Why is it so delayed, you feel like, in America?
Well, part of that is the FDA acts as the gatekeeper, right? And so you're not going to get any product approved without an FDA clinical trial. Make sure that it's safe, make sure that it's efficacious, make sure that it's being manufactured under sterile guidelines that are up to snuff. Beyond that, it actually did come out in the United States 10, 20 years ago, but the early iterations of it were not impressive at all. So I think it was a different molecule that they were using, and so the process that you had to go through versus the results that you were getting, just it wasn't favorable. It's the same reason why like silicone for lip injections has fallen out of favor.
Yeah.
Because it's like diamonds, like that silicone's forever. You know what I mean? It's not coming out, and then it starts to do really weird warpy things to a girl's lips. So you can almost always tell when a girl had silicone injected in her lips 20 years ago, and that's just not a thing they do anymore. So.
Yeah, I'm glad it looks so much better the way they do it now versus then.
Right.
And things grow so much in this industry over years. So it's
Yeah,
impressive.
I mean, we get to benefit of all the mistakes that people in the past have made, you know what I mean, and kind of like change up the game. The model evolves, the products get better, and so I think that's where Threads are going. Is they're finding a sugar molecule that works better. They're finding best practices for everything from the shape and the manufacturing of the thread itself to the vectors and the placement of such threads. How many threads do you need to get an outcome? And how long is it going to last? But it's definitely not a facelift.
Yeah.
If somebody is a real candidate to do a facelift, I just tell them, save your money. I'm always honest with people. I don't believe in doing something just for the sake of doing it so I can take their money. Like, I'm going to take their money anyway. Like, they're going to come see me, but they always appreciate when I'm honest with them. And I'll say, look, let's not do this under eye filler because you really need a surgical eye bag removal or something like that. And I'm always honest with people, and I'll try to send them to the proper plastic surgeon or somebody that can really help them in the best way.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll say, you know what, I appreciate the information. You're just not going to see me go into the knife, so tell me what the next best thing is, and then I'll give them the next best thing, and that's fine.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I heard you say something earlier that I really wanted to touch on. Now, you said that you have patients come in and you tell them a price and you kind of work on what you think is best. How big is it to trust your injector and that trust between patient and injector?
I think it's super important.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if you give somebody a good outcome and a good experience in your office on the first time, they're going to be yours forever. That's just the power of psychology. Like, they're going to stick with you. I mean, there's a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of hairstylists in this very plaza that we're sitting in right now.
Yeah.
But I still drive over to East Fort Lauderdale to get my hair cut because that's my girl who's been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years. The other thing is sticking with the same injector allows them to develop an understanding of your face and the changes that are happening. They know what they've done for you in the past. There's no guesswork involved with a lot of times people don't remember what they did. They don't know what products they got. So I think it's important to stick with an injector who is not only good at what they do, but they also will educate you as to what can potentially go wrong in these procedures and what to do about it. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've had somebody come to me and the injector gave them no explanation about what a vascular occlusion is, how it can complicate the situation, putting Botox in your top lip to get that lip flip. That's a little bit trendy, but they didn't explain that it might affect the way that they move their lip and sip on a straw. Now you got these girls who trying to sip on a straw and they're drilling out their mouth because they can't close their lip right.
Yeah.
I think injectors are doing their patients a disservice to not at least talk about those risks. I mean, that's literally the definition of informed consent, which is usually listed on the forms that we give them to fill out, but most of the time people don't read those forms. But I still want them to know what can go wrong. But to answer your question, I think it's important as long as your injector's within reasonable geographic distance of you and they continue to execute on consistent good results over time and they're doing it for a fair price, I think you should stick with them. I don't ever try to poach clients from injectors because everybody's getting injected somewhere with something. There's enough eaten to go around. I don't need to be greedy. I've been the recipient of some patients who either had a bad result or they had a terrible experience, because you can give somebody a good result, but if they had a miserable time doing it, they're probably not going to come back and see you either. And so that's why I'm really big on giving somebody a much more comfortable experience, So I do everything that I can to provide that for my clients. You know, everything from the vibe in the room to me coming in with a calm Zen energy, making them feel at ease, especially if it's their first encounter or first interaction with me. Because everybody's always a little bit on edge, whether it's like your first time meeting somebody, you know, it's like being on a first date. You kind of have like those hesitations, those first date jitters, or maybe they've never been injected before, you know, and they're terrified because they don't know what that needle's going to feel like. And then I'll spend time just kind of putting them at ease, getting their body at ease. And truly, like from a physiologic standpoint, what you're doing is you're overcoming their fight or flight response. So, you know, in that moment, all their cortisol and their other hormones are like on red alert because there's like a stranger who's coming at your face with a sharp object. Everything in your survival instincts goes, that's not good for us, right? So a lot of it is just getting them to relax, calm down, gain that trust. And, you know, sometimes you got to go at their speed. Sometimes they need 5 or 6 different areas of filler treated, but they're only willing to start with the one for now, and you kind of got to respect that. You know, you got to sometimes be willing to go at their speed.
Is there any celebrity lookalike that people come in and say, hey, I want to look like this person?
I mean, you know, back when Kylie Jenner was like the lip guru or the lip queen, you know, you had some girls saying, I want to look like that, and I would tell them that doesn't happen in one session. It's not very often. I mean, I think most people have a reasonable expectation that there's no amount of Botox and fillers going to take this girl and make her look like Angelina Jolie or something like that. The point we really try to hammer home is like we're just trying to get you to be the best version, the most refreshed, youthful version of yourself. You know, and sometimes you got to work on some body image issues too.
Yeah.
Because some of these girls coming in like, I'm so ugly, and like, okay, well, calm down. You're not a hideous monster.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So, you know, there's a lot of reassurance that happens, but you got to really set the expectations about what's possible and what's not possible.
That's great. And yeah, I've asked a lot of injectors about like body dysphoria and things of that nature. How do you handle someone that maybe is on the brink of that?
I mean, sometimes you just gotta flat out say no, and you gotta know when it's right to do that. It's a tricky one because, you know, they're in true body dysmorphia, they're really seeing themselves in a different way than what we're seeing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very common for clients to come in and make complaints about really slight asymmetries in the face. And I just try to reassure them, like, hey, that's everybody. You know, there's no face out there, except maybe Angelina Jolie, that is 100% symmetrical. And I tell them, like, I could point out 10 different asymmetries on my own face right now. I'm not going to do that for you because I'd rather you know, be under the belief that I'm more handsome than I really am. But, you know, they'll come in and they'll say, oh, this side of my lip is just a little bit higher than this side. And sometimes you can correct those asymmetries, but I think it's more important to try to educate them and sort of talk them off the ledge and let them to be okay with those imperfections, because this is Instagram, this is reality.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. Now, there's so many skincare lines on the market right now. Kim Kardashian has one, Pharrell, J-Lo even has one. How do you feel about all these celebrities just slapping their name on these skincare brands and putting them out into the public?
I mean, I'm never going to fault somebody for using their platform to promote or endorse a product, because that's their platform. They earned it. They earned the right to be there. They put the work in. And I think it depends on what type of person that they are, because some people will just endorse a product for the money, and other people will not endorse it unless they believe in it. Regardless, I still think it's important that the consumer still educates themselves and does the due diligence on the product so that they're not just buying the hype, but they're actually buying something that's gonna, make their life better or something like that.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because you have obviously some products in your office that work amazing, right? They're obviously medical grade, things of that nature. And then some of these products that they put out are just not as good, but it's just, the celebrity endorsed behind it. So people just run out there and like, hey, I want to try this. So
yeah, well, skincare products, surprisingly, is one of those areas that's not regulated by the FDA. It's much like over-the-counter supplements, right? So anybody can make anything. For me, I have a formal medical license. I have a reputation to uphold, and I also just believe in getting people the best possible outcomes that they can. And so it's the onus is on me a little bit more to choose products more wisely and discriminately so that I can make sure that I'm providing products that have actual clinical research, clinical data, actual placebo-controlled studies behind them. And once you do that, once you make that decision, now you're limited to a very small pool of skincare companies. We've personally chosen to partner with Skin Better, largely for that reason, that they do stand behind their work. They have white papers, they have controlled clinical trials showing their products, and they're just amazing products. I mean, I'm using them myself, and I've tried multiple medical grade skincare products, and I really like them a lot. Like I feel like my skin has never looked better personally.
Great. Now, being a business owner, what are some challenges that you faced? And someone that maybe want to come into this field, right? Because I speak to a lot of injectors that been in the industry for years, but there's kind of, debating, hey, should I start my own? Should I keep working for somebody? What are some challenges that you can give them, or what are some things that you can tell them to look out for when doing it?
So, I mean, there's obviously like a million ways you can slice it. Any business, regardless, has startup costs. Your first year, one-time investments that you have to make. So you have to have some working capital up front, whether that's your own capital or whether you choose to partner with, silent money. I personally believe it's better to have like fewer hands in the pot. So if you can get it up and going on your own, that's why I've chosen to kind of start humbly and just do the 2 one-room suites, because I can manage the budget of that. On top of that, I don't think it's something that somebody who's like a day one injector should set out to do, because like you're still the main event, right? You're still the attraction, and it truly does take, I'd say, a solid 3 years to establish a consistent clientele, that's willing to come back and continue getting treatments and support you. Without clients, you don't have income. So whether you market heavily to get those clients, or whether it's your existing client base who's out there marketing for you, I mean, that's the benefit of being 5 years deep into the game at this point, is that I've had enough repetitions, I've treated enough clients that those clients have gone out and gotten me other clients. My body of work on Instagram generates business for me alone, because photos matter, and people are scrolling and they want to see what kind of work to expect if they're going to trust you with their face. So that's a big part of it, is just having a little bit of repetition in the game, having a little bit of experience. I just don't think it's something that a beginner should do, unless they're planning on starting something and partnering with somebody who has that experience. But like I said, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. You can do it with partners. I think it's also important to have somebody in your corner, whether it's a spouse or a significant other, that's also helping you out with like the day-to-day aspects of the business. I think choosing a location is important. There's a lot of factors involved, but those are probably like the big ones for me.
Yeah. One of the biggest things I think you said is really having support or a team around you to help out to build that. How do you kind of look for a great team, or how did you build a great team around you?
So I haven't built a great team. I'm building a great team. So I've recently partnered with Paula, who's amazing. I do have a girl who does my social media for me, specifically for the Icon Aesthetics pages. I am working with a web design guy who is local, and he has a varsity level understanding of SEO and how to get your website to rank organically just based on the content that's on there, before you even have to put a dime towards paid ads or Facebook ads, Instagram ads, those kinds of things. There are certain elements that will cause the Google algorithm to behave in a certain way such that, your page might rank higher in the listings, below those top 3 paid ad spots that everybody sees, and then you scroll down and you start seeing like the real locations, and if you do things the right way, yours might be in the top of that part. Beyond that, I'm really, really, really close to bringing on an assistant.
Nice.
Somebody who can just kind of help me manage some of the more administrative aspects, because like I said before, I'm more a creative type person. I love the face-to-face interaction. I love the actual work of injecting. I love the hands-on part of it. Excel spreadsheets, keeping my email organized, less so, not so much. Those are things that I have to build systems and remember to do it, because those are the less fun things for me, and I would love to have somebody who's just like handling all of that for me. So we're gonna get there. And I also believe in finding somebody, less people of higher quality than just hiring a bunch of people at minimum wage who will probably give exactly 2 rips about their job because they're making $15 an hour, versus somebody who's a little bit more incentivized and kind of bought into the concept. So those are the kinds of people that I have sought out and will continue to seek out as my business and my concept grows.
I like that, because I truly believe like you should only work with experts. Like all the people I hire or work with, I feel like are experts in their fields, and I feel like that helps to give that passion that you're talking about and that excitement to want to be there.
It does. I mean, the good thing is the aesthetic field is a fun business to work in, to be in. So it's not hard to find willing participants, but regardless, you still want to find somebody that you can build with, especially if you're kind of like where I'm at, which is like early in the game, kind of on the ground level. I mean, this is like year 1 for my business. But I don't want to, if I'm going to take the time to invest in somebody, I don't want them to just take all that knowledge and value that I've bestowed on them and then just walk away because somebody else offered them like $2 more an hour. You know what I mean? So finding ways to get people also just emotionally bought in, and that comes with just being a good boss. Like treating people with respect, treating them like partners and not just subservient employees that are there to do your bidding. And that's kind of like my life rule number 1. Like, don't be an asshole. That's all you got to do. Just be fair with people. And give them a reason to want to stick around. It's like a relationship. You know what I mean? If people aren't happy, they're just going to go find somebody that will make them happy.
I agree a lot. How big is social media, or how has social media impacted your business?
Social media is everything. I mean, I don't think you can get clients without social media. Even if you are not physically on social media, you're probably paying for ads that are going to show up on social media feeds, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. So I don't think you can do this business in 2022 without social media. Instagram has been an immensely helpful tool, just because you don't pay for a organic Instagram page. I mean, you might pay for the ads, but it doesn't cost me a dime to just post before and after photos, and as that body of work grows, so does my clientele. And then there's, TikTok is still kind of like I think a lot of injectors are still trying to figure out how to navigate. The thing that kind of rubs me about social media is that it's become less about providing legitimate value and more about just trying to get the attention on you. You know what I mean? So people are just posting to post, right? You got to put out content. You got to put out content. And a lot of times that content is purely for entertainment purposes, which is fine. I'm of the belief I'd rather put out less pieces of content that are either highly valuable or highly entertaining. So
Yeah.
I'm not just going to sit there and do like an 8-second TikTok dance. That's not a thing you're going to see me do. But
Yeah.
to answer your question, I think it's immensely important. I think it's paramount.
What trends are you seeing right now in the market,
In the market,
or like the industry as a whole?
well, 2022 has been the year of the salon suite. I mean, even just down here in South Florida, I know personally like 7 or 8 different injectors that left their respective places of employment to open up their own thing, such as what I've done, and they're doing exactly what I'm doing. They're starting with just like the 1 room or the 2 rooms in a shared working space to keep the overhead down. You know, I don't have to pay for the internet. I don't pay for the utilities. I don't have to sweep the hallways. I don't have to clean the bathrooms. That's all shared community space. I'm just responsible for, you know, my own room. So that's one trend as far as like the business side of it goes. I think mid-level practitioners, as we're referred to sometimes, which would include physician assistants and nurse practitioners, have really finally kind of established themselves in the field. Whereas in other medical specialties, we are typically seen as, you know, like an extension of the doctor working a little bit more hand in hand with the MD. But the aesthetic field is one area specifically where you can kind of carve out your own practice, and that's been a lot of fun for me to see that happen, you know. So it's a good day to be a PA is what I'm trying to say. As far as procedures go, you know, PDO threads are definitely trending. They're as controversial as they may be. It's still a thing that people are asking about. Everything from the fox eye to the mid and the lower face snatch. What else? You know, the lip flip, jawline contouring, chin projection. That's all stuff that's requested a lot. Obviously, you know, lips aren't going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, it seems like the client age of lips continues to get younger and younger. And I've treated, on occasion, a 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old. I make their mom sign the consent forms as well, right next to them. So a little bit of pediatric aesthetics. But oftentimes they just want to do it, you know, for their senior photos or something like that. And so long as their mom signs off on it, I'm not going to let those girls like get out of control later on. But also a general trend is just girls are starting younger when it comes to things like neurotoxin and doing it more preventatively versus correctively later on. And I think social media has a lot to do with that. You know, they just like make me look like the filter that I just put on all these photos. And I'm like, I'll do my best. What else?
What about PRF or the PRP that's injected into the lips or used as like more of a injectable?
So that's not a thing that I personally do.
Yeah.
But my understanding of it is the difference between platelet-rich plasma, which is in a liquid or unclotted form, versus platelet-rich fibrin, which is PRF, is that you allow the plasma to clot and then you use that more kind of solid plasma like a filler. I'll be honest, off the top of my head, I don't know what kind of real clinical studies and data exists on PRF as far as like the longevity. I do love plasma for the regenerative component of it.
Yeah.
I don't know how long a fibrin clot would stick around and last as a bona fide placeholder for filler.
Yeah.
So I can't speak to that as intelligently as somebody else might. I think Jordan Najjar does a lot of PRF, so she might be a good source. Shout out to Jordan, Rejuvenate. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. Another thing I do kind of not in place of, but in addition to, is exosomes. So topical exosomes, which I'm combining with microneedling. Exosomes are taken from human adipose stem cells or fat cells. And so it's like stem cells, but it's not stem cells. So I would never call it a stem cell therapy, but it's exosomes, and those work the way that plasma does, but like at a much more accelerated kind of pace.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the exosomes facilitate the work of repair and remodeling that happens, and it's like instead of having a crew of 5 to do the remodel job at your house, you have a crew of 50 showing up to do the same thing. So having done microneedling both with platelet-rich plasma and exosomes on myself, I can tell you that the recovery and the results happen in half the time with the exosomes. So I'm a big fan. So that's one thing that I've seen other places do. That's kind of a trend in the industry as well.
Super cool, super cool. It's changing so much all the time, which is interesting because there's so many new things coming out, so many things to help people and kind of get along with, in that way. Stella, I always like to talk about education. I think education is huge. Is there any new education things that people should look out for, try, conferences, articles, anything?
I mean, I think more education is always better than less education. Anytime I can scoop up a training or go to a conference, I try to do it.
Yeah.
I always go in with an open mind, because almost always you'll leave with at least one or two things that will get you thinking about something in a different way and help to improve your practice. And then sometimes you'll see somebody present on something or train on something, and you'll just be like, I think I still like my way better, and that's just how it goes. But for me personally, I try to be as economical with my time and my distance as I can. So I'll try to hit the South Florida conferences as much as possible. But now more than ever, there are more and more CME sponsored events where we can get our continuing medical education credits specifically for aesthetics and aesthetic type conferences. A lot of derm conferences are now starting to incorporate a lot more of an aesthetic component, whereas in the past the aesthetics would just be kind of an afterthought, and it would be mostly about medical dermatology and what have you, and it was really difficult to find an aesthetic conference that didn't cost $2,000 to go to, let alone give you an actual continuing medical education credit, which we have to renew every 2 years, right? But now I think there's more conferences, more events that are starting to come out, get put on, which is immensely helpful. Following certain injectors, doctors, plastic surgeons on Instagram and just watching them do what they do helps. I've learned stuff from YouTube, just pulling up certain prominent injectors on YouTube, watching them do certain procedures or talk about a certain thing has been helpful. And that's definitely something I want to get into myself later on as well, both just, formal offering training, as well as I do plan to ramp up the YouTube channel. So you'll see the Needle Daddy YouTube come into effect, hopefully within this year. And with the idea that I just want to provide as much education and value, both to injectors and the industry, as well as consumers who are just seeking, unbiased information about these types of procedures. So that's really what I would set out to do with that.
Nice. Is there any providers you can shout out on Instagram that add a lot of value or education to the market?
Yeah, there's a lot of people I could shout out. Lamore Weinberg, Beauty Bay. I like the crew at Fifth and Wellness. I love Jordan. I love. God, there's so many people. One cool thing is that we're starting to kind of get together for these sort of quarterly meetups. A lot of injectors. So I've got to know a lot of new people that maybe I followed on Instagram, and now I got to get to know in person. But there's a lot of really great people out there. Danielle White, I have a huge amount of respect for. She was immensely helpful. She's been helpful to other people, even just from the business owner side of things. And Shino Bay Aguilera, Matt Zaraga at Z-Rock Dermatology, some of my faves. So yeah, there's a lot.
Amazing. Yeah, I love all of them. I'm gonna drop them below so you can go ahead and follow all those people too. For sure. Well, thank you so much, Chad, for sitting down with me, speaking more about the aesthetic industry and showing us your practice. It looks amazing again. Congratulations. Tell everybody where they can find you and what you have planned next.
So you can find me on Instagram at needle daddy, and then I also have the Instagram handle for Icon Aesthetics and Wellness, which is icon_wellness. And then I have a website which is live. It's not quite perfected, which is just icon-wellness.com. And those are probably the best places to get a hold of me. Or you can just DM John, and then John can give you my
Definitely.
info.
All right. Well, until next time, bye.